In a world where one country rules another unjustly through tyranny, through taxes, and through all-out oppression, it is time for a group of men to rise as one, lead a revolution, and throw off these ties that bound them to this country. Today we'll be talking about declaring our independence and the victory for the Patriots. So the decision for independence was relatively basic and simple. Thomas Paine, author of the pamphlet Common Sense, said it was time to break the ties with Great Britain, and this changed the mind of many loyalists. It would just make common sense to declare independence from these vicious and these oppressive English individuals. So on July 1st, 1776, 9 out of the 13 colonies voted for independence. On July 2nd, 12 were in favor. New York abstained. They did not vote. And we'll discuss more about what that means in class. Congress asked a committee headed by Thomas Jefferson to write a Declaration of Independence to the King of England. On July 4th, 1776, John Hancock, leader of Congress, signed the document. We had now formally severed ties with Britain. The colonists chose sides. Patriots, these were colonists who supported independence, and loyalist Tories remained loyal to the British king. So looking at this war and the advantages that each side had, the British had more people. They were well trained. They had a very good, well-trained army and navy, a strong government, and 1/3 of the Americans were loyalists, so they supported the crown. Americans fought on familiar land, easier to communicate, had a lot of room to roam, and committed to the idea of independence. So they had a reason to be fighting, a very strong one. So Valley Forge was a key area of concern for the Continental Army because Washington and his men had little food and were not well prepared. So many men during this winter at Valley Forge died of starvation and disease, and Washington knew he needed money for food and clothing. So the colonists were fortunate enough to get some support from their allies, France and Spain. France had been helping the Continental Army out in secret. In 1778, France declared war on Britain. By 1780, Spain was also sending supplies to help the Americans. The French Navy proved to be an equal match for the British. Now, looking at the war in the South, many loyalists lived in the South. The British felt that if they took over Charleston, they would win the war. With the help of their navy, the British captured Charleston. When it looked like the Americans would lose, Patriots started using guerrilla warfare, which were fighters who staged hit-and-run tactics. The British general, Cornwallis, gave up the Carolinas and moves into Virginia, Yorktown. So these hit-and-run tactics proved to be very beneficial for the colonists because they knew the land and were able to ambush these redcoats at a moment's notice. So once he's moved up into Yorktown, French and American troops surround this town and 6,000 British soldiers. The British surrender, ending the war. Cornwallis knew he had backed himself into a corner. He would not be able to survive this. So wave the white flag and surrender. So the Americans won the war, essentially because the British were overconfident. They were certain they would win this war. However, they didn't. Second, the entry of other European nations, so the French and the Spanish backing us up, really helped us win this war, and Americans were extremely devoted to their cause. They knew what they wanted. They wanted independence. They wanted freedom from Great Britain, and they were willing to fight and die for that cause. And at the Second Treaty of Paris, 4 people were in charge of writing the treaty, the agreement between the United States, the colonies, and Great Britain. So Ben Franklin, John Jay, John Adams, and Henry Lawrence created the 3 main parts of the Treaty of Paris. The United States of America was recognized as an independent nation. The U.S. could continue fishing off the coast of Canada, and Americans agreed to pay back all debts to the British merchants, as well as give back property taken from the Loyalists. This was ignored. So now the United States is faced with creating their own government and their own nation, really. And we will begin to getting into that next time.